Hey there, viewers. After years of silence and carefully crafted statements, Oprah has finally let something slip, and it wasn't planned. Her new confession isn't just surprising, it's left people questioning everything they thought they knew. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. I was never meant to leave. They told my mother I was chosen. That's the word they used, chosen. Like it was something holy, a chance only a few girls ever got. I was 13, skinny as a stick, and couldn't believe someone as poor as us would ever matter to someone as rich as her. My mother wept when they gave her the letter. I think she believed I'd be safe, that I'd grow into something brighter than what our village could offer. She kept saying, "This is your door, baby. Don't ever shut it." But they don't tell you that some doors don't open. They close behind you, lock themselves, and if you scream from inside, no one hears. Or maybe they do, maybe they just pretend they don't. I was never rescued. I escaped. I'm not even sure if I should be saying this. I've changed my name twice already. I don't use phones. I don't stay in one place more than a few nights. I don't talk to strangers unless I have to. I don't trust mirrors anymore either. Not since I started seeing things that don't match my face, expressions that linger too long after I've looked away. I'm telling this now because I don't know how much longer I can hold it in. My chest feels like it's swelling with someone else's voice, and I think if I don't speak it out, I'll start saying their words instead, the ones they made us rehearse. It started slowly at the school, the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. It was huge, shining, beautiful. It looked like something from a movie. Polished halls, tall iron gates. The grounds were always so green, like someone painted them that way. The teachers were dressed so perfectly, always smiling, always watching. We were told how lucky we were, how we had to prove ourselves worthy of what was given. I believed that for a while. I tried my best. I sat up straight in class. I brushed my hair just the way they told us to. I smiled. A lot. They liked it when you smiled without being told. But then girls started disappearing. It wasn't like one big moment. There were no alarms or police or questions, no crying in the halls, nothing messy like in movies. It was quiet, almost polite. A girl would be in the bed next to you one night, and the next morning her bed would be made, sheets smooth, locker emptied. No announcement, no goodbyes. If anyone asked, you'd get this look from the teachers. Not angry, just disappointed, like you'd broken something that couldn't be fixed. We were told to trust the system, that every removal was part of the cycle. They said some girls weren't ready, that they were redirected. We didn't know what that meant. We just nodded. There was this one girl, her name was Nokula. She didn't smile much. She asked a lot of questions. She once stood up during morning assembly and asked why we weren't allowed to write home ourselves, why letters had to go through the office first. I remember how the room went quiet, like she'd spat on the floor. One of the dorm matrons walked over and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. She didn't scream or fight, just walked out. We never saw her again. After that, nobody asked anything. We were told to repeat the pledge every night before lights out. I am seen, I am safe, I am grateful. If someone didn't say it loud enough, we had to start again. Even if we were all half asleep, sometimes we'd say it 15, 20 times before the matron was satisfied. The day everything changed for me was during a routine compliance check. That's what they called it, compliance, like we were gears in a machine. I'd gotten a cold and hadn't smiled during morning lining. I remember sneezing and rubbing my nose, and one of the assistants, I don't remember her name, just her sharp black heels, wrote something on a clipboard and walked off. Later that evening, a note was left on my pillow, neatly folded. Report to room 9 after dinner. Room 9 wasn't on the class map. Nobody talked about it. I'd only heard whispers, rumors. They said it was where they took the ones who forgot how to be thankful. That was the phrase. Like gratitude was something you could be tested on. I didn't eat much that night. My hands were shaking too hard to hold the fork properly. My roommate Cindy looked at me with these wide, scared eyes, but she didn't say anything, just nodded once. We all knew better than to get involved. I walked down the West Hall after dinner, past the trophy wall, past the locked faculty lounge. Room 9 was behind a plain, gray door. No nameplate, no window, just a keypad and a buzzer. When I pressed the buzzer, it clicked open. Inside, it smelled like lemon and metal, cold and sour. The lights were too bright, like hospital lights. In the center of the room was a chair, bolted to the ground. A metal chair with no cushions. Just behind it, a camera. The red light on it was blinking. There were no teachers, no adults, just a voice from a speaker above the door. "Sit down." I did. "Say your name." I did. "You say you are grateful." I hesitated, then said it. "I am grateful." The voice didn't respond. For a while there was just silence. I could hear my own breathing. My heart felt like it was trying to punch out of my ribs. Then the light above me flickered. "You violated the trust cycle," the voice said. I opened my mouth to ask what that meant. But the chair buzzed beneath me. Not hard, just a soft vibration. Enough to make me stop moving. "You will be realigned." Then everything went black. I don't remember what happened after that, not fully, just flashes, a bright light, my arms strapped, a mask over my face, the sound of static, a song playing over and over, something old in a language I didn't know, sung by a child, and the whispering. That was the worst part. Someone whispering the pledge in my ear, again and again. I am seen, I am safe, I am grateful. When I woke up, I was in the infirmary. They said I'd fainted during compliance review, that I'd been sick and confused. I was given tea, a new uniform, told to rest. But my reflection looked different. My smile felt like it was being pulled by strings. I laughed too loudly at breakfast the next day. I answered too perfectly in class. I couldn't stop. The next night, I ran. I don't know how I got past the gates. I don't even remember doing it. I just know I ended up on a road, barefoot, bleeding, and confused. I walked for what felt like days before a truck driver found me. I told him I was from another school, that I'd been visiting family and got lost. He gave me food and dropped me at a town far from the campus. I never looked back. Now I move a lot. Cheap motels, fake names. But I've started seeing signs, things that don't make sense. Old schoolmates showing up in blurred photos online. Girls who vanished, now smiling in uniforms that look too clean, too new. And sometimes, late at night, I dream of Room 9 again. Only this time, I'm the one behind the camera. I still have the photos I took before I escaped. But they're not what you'd expect. Not pictures of bruises or injuries. Not anything obvious. Just faces. Faces of girls who should have been gone. All smiling. All looking straight at me. Like they knew I'd come back. I don't know if I'll show them yet. I don't know what happens if I do. But they're here. And they're watching me now. Chapter 2. The smile they taught us. I used to think smiles came from something inside, like a laugh you couldn't hold in, or a joke that surprised you. But at that school, they taught us something different. They taught us that a smile isn't always yours. Sometimes it's someone else's decision. Sometimes it's the only thing keeping you from disappearing. We were trained to smile. They called it presentation discipline, but that's not what it was. It was control. It started our first week. The instructors walked between our rows at breakfast, watching how we sat, how we chewed, how we looked up when spoken to. If you smiled too little, They took notes. If you smiled too much, they took notes. Everything was monitored. After meals, we had posture and poise. It wasn't a regular class. We were lined up in front of full-length mirrors, our hands folded neatly, backs straight. The woman who ran it never raised her voice. She never needed to. Her stare could crush you. She'd walk slowly down the line with a thin ruler in one hand and a stopwatch in the other. "You may smile," she'd say, and the moment you did, the timer started. If your smile faded before she told you to stop, you were marked non-compliant. Most girls managed at first. It was just a smile, right? But over time, your cheeks burned, your lips trembled, and then she'd whisper things while you held the expression. Things like, "They are always watching," or "You are only safe if you're pleasant." I didn't understand what she meant then. I thought it was just discipline. I thought it was part of becoming better, but it wasn't about manners. It was about erasure. We were also told to practice mirror routines. Before bed, we were expected to rehearse our expressions in front of the small glass square mounted in our lockers. It was about more than smiling. We had to get the timing right. How long to hold eye contact, how long to tilt our heads, how to blink gently instead of quickly. There was a laminated card taped inside my door that said, "Softness equals safety. Stillness equals success." We weren't allowed to cry during these sessions. If someone did, the hallway lights would flicker, and within minutes, a matron would appear. Sometimes, the girl would be taken away and returned hours later, quieter. Other times, they didn't come back. That's what happened to Nokuthula. She was always quiet, but not because she was scared. It was more like she saw through things. She never forced her smile. She did it when she meant it. And when she didn't feel like smiling, she didn't. One afternoon during mirror routine, she just stood there, still, blank. Ms. Indira came in unexpectedly and saw her. Everyone froze. Nakatula didn't flinch. "I'm not your doll," she said. Clear, calm, no tears. Miss Indira walked up behind her, leaned close to her ear, and whispered something none of us could hear. Then she walked out, and 2 other women came in. They weren't teachers. I'd never seen them before. Their faces were hard, their clothes too clean. They didn't speak. They just took Nokudula by both arms and led her away. We never saw her again. They told us she had been sent home to rest, but we all knew what that meant. Girls didn't go home from that school, not unless someone else came for them, and Nokuthula's family lived far. No one ever visited her. After she disappeared, things changed. Smiling wasn't just expected, it was demanded. That's when we started hearing about Remedial Hall. None of us had seen it, but the rumors were loud enough. They said it was a white room with no windows, lined with mirrors that didn't reflect properly. You'd be brought there if you failed 3 presentations in a week. There were drills, repetition exercises. Reconditioning, they called it. One girl, Tando, came back from a 2-day absence and wouldn't speak for a week. When she finally did, she kept blinking like she couldn't tell if we were real. I asked her once what it was like in there. She just looked down at her hands and whispered, "You smile or you vanish." After that, I stopped asking. I got good at smiling, not just with my mouth, but with my whole face. I even learned how to smile while blinking slowly, like I was always peaceful. They said I was adapting well. I hated that praise. It made my stomach twist. Because the better you adapted, the more invisible your fear became. Weeks passed, and I tried not to think about Nokutala. But I couldn't help it. Every time I opened my locker, I saw her face in my head, her lips pressed tight, her eyes full of quiet resistance. Then one morning, after breakfast, I opened my locker and froze. Her uniform was there, folded perfectly, pressed clean. Our uniforms had our names sewn inside the collar with navy thread. I picked it up and looked inside. Her name was still there, but someone had drawn a spiral over it. Not a perfect one, just a messy, inky swirl, like a child had pressed a pen in the fabric and twisted it again and again until it bled. I blinked and stepped back, heart racing. I looked around the hallway. No one else seemed to notice. Everyone was talking, heading to class. I closed the locker quietly. I didn't take the uniform out. I didn't say anything. That night I tried to tell Cindy, my roommate, but when I said Nakutala's name, she flinched. "We're not supposed to say her name," she whispered. "Don't make them notice you." That was the first time I realized they'd gotten to us. We weren't scared of being punished. We were scared of being erased. Later that night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. I kept thinking about the spiral, the way it looked, not like a symbol but a tunnel, like whoever drew it was trying to fall into something. Or maybe climb out. The next day, the uniform was gone. Someone had taken it. No trace left. But I still see the spiral sometimes. Not always on paper. Sometimes in the way the bathroom fan spins, or in the mist on a mirror. Once I swore I saw it on the palm of my own hand. Faint, fading, but there. I don't think Nakutla was sent home. I don't think any of the girls who resisted were. I think they were sent deeper. And the smile they taught us? It wasn't a smile. It was a seal. Chapter 3, Room 9. It took me 4 bus rides and 3 fake names to get close to the town again. I'd avoided this place for years, like my skin would burn if I breathed in the dust too long. The streets had changed. Some of the old fruit vendors were gone. The church near the hill had a new sign, but the cracks on its steps were the same. What struck me most was how quiet everything felt, like the entire town had agreed to forget something at the same time. I didn't come back to be brave. I came back because I had to. There's something I left behind, not a person, not even an object really. It's more like a missing piece in my head, a blackout I've never been able to fill. The night I left the school, I thought I was escaping with everything I needed, my life, my memories, my mind. I was wrong. They kept part of me. And now I want it back. The school is shuttered now, not torn down, not repurposed completely, just closed, like someone paused it. The sign out front still stands, though the letters are sun-faded and the gold trim is peeling. The Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. It looks like it's still waiting for applause. I slipped in through the side gate, the one near the gardening sheds. The chain had rusted through in spots, easy enough to push. No alarms, no cameras I could see, just overgrown grass and silence. The path to the main hall was cracked with weeds, but I remembered every step. My feet knew where to go before I even thought about it. Inside, the air smelled like mold and furniture polish. The halls were coated in dust, but the glass cabinets were still filled with trophies and awards, like they were waiting for someone to come polish them. I passed the classroom I used to sit in for language theory. The desks were all facing the board, chairs tucked in, too neat, like they hadn't been abandoned, just paused mid-lesson. I made my way down the west corridor, the one with no windows. It was colder there, even though the rest of the school felt stale and warm. I remember how quiet it used to be in this hallway. Even now, my footsteps sounded wrong, like they were being swallowed. Room 9 was still there. Still the same door, plain, gray, no sign. Just a keypad, but it was open. Something about that made my throat tighten. It wasn't supposed to be open. That door had been locked for years, even before I left. I touched the handle and it turned with a soft groan, the metal warm against my skin like it had been waiting for me. Inside, it looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I was just older now. The walls were padded, not like a psychiatric room, but with thin gray foam that had been scratched and dented in places. The lights above buzzed softly, one of them flickering in the far corner. And there it was, the chair, dated still bolted to the center of the room. Metal. No cushions. A thick leather strap dangled from each armrest. One of them was frayed at the edge, as if someone had pulled against it for too long. Behind the chair, facing it like an audience, was the camera. Same blinking red light. Still powered, somehow. No screen attached, just the lens and a quiet hum, like it was thinking. Stepped in slowly. My knees felt like they might give out. My body remembered this room before my mind did. Every hair on my arms stood up. I walked around the chair, fingertips grazing its back. The memory came in flashes, the vibration of the seat beneath me, the smell of lemon-scented chemicals, the voice, soft and sharp, repeating commands from a speaker I couldn't see. Say your name. I'm grateful. I was seen, therefore I am safe. That phrase, that last one, it's the only part I remember clearly, like it was burned into me. The rest is fog. I don't remember what I said, just that I spoke. A lot. I think they asked questions, or maybe they just watched me try to smile. My mouth still hurts sometimes when I sleep, like I'm grinding my teeth into that same shape. I walked to the far corner where the light was dimmest. Boxes were stacked there. Old cables, broken headsets, and a pile of unlabeled VHS tapes. Except one. Between its copywriter, it was set aside, covered in dust but not buried. Like someone wanted it to be found eventually. Cycle 7, full compliance. My name was written beneath it in red marker, not printed, handwritten. The ink had bled slightly, like it had been written in a rush, or maybe by someone whose hand was shaking. I picked it up and felt my stomach drop. The tape was warm. I didn't have a player. I hadn't seen one in years, but I held it like it might breathe, like it could explain everything I still couldn't remember. The gap in my memory wasn't just a blank, it was an itch, a constant hum, like a song I almost knew the words to but couldn't sing out loud. I stood there for a long time, holding that tape, trying to decide whether to stay. The room felt alive, not haunted, not evil, just rehearsed, like everything in it had happened before, would happen again. The blinking camera light was steady now, no flicker, like it was watching. I backed out of the room, tape in hand. The door closed behind me with a sound that was too soft to be a slam, but too final to be anything else. Back outside, the air was thick, the sky was gray with sunset, and the weeds brushed against my legs as I walked. I didn't feel free. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt like something had been moved back into place, like a puzzle piece no one wanted to fit. That night, I stayed in a cheap roadside motel. I didn't turn on the TV. I just sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the VH tape. I ran my fingers over the label again and again, tracing the letters of my name. I don't know what's on it. I don't know if I'll watch it. But I know this. Someone filmed me, someone recorded what they did, and someone labeled it compliance. They told us we were seen, that being seen meant being safe. But that was never true. We were watched, and watching is not the same as saving. Chapter 4. The others. I didn't plan to meet her. I didn't even know she was real. For weeks after I found the tape, I kept moving. Never the same room, never the same name twice. I wrapped the tape in 3 layers of cloth and stuffed it in a cheap duffel bag I bought at a second-hand shop. I didn't dare mail it or digitize it. Something about that tape. It felt like it wanted to be left alone. But I couldn't let it go either. Then, One night, in a faded diner off a highway with no name, I saw her. She was older than me, maybe late 20s. Her face was lean, tired but not broken. She moved like someone who knew how to vanish into a room and still watch everything. The waitress called her Maya, but I knew that wasn't her name. Not really. Not the name I remembered. She sat 3 booths down, sipping cold tea and staring out the window like the sky was speaking to her. I hadn't spoken to anyone in days. I almost didn't say anything, but then she looked at me. Not just looked, recognized. That kind of look burns through your skin, like someone seeing a part of you that even you forgot you had. I got up without thinking. My legs moved before my brain did. I sat across from her. She didn't smile, just said, "You're too young to still remember." I stared at her, heart thumping. "You were at the school." She nodded once. "Room 3C, compliance wing." I felt like I couldn't breathe. They said room 3C was condemned. Them say a lot of things. She reached into her coat and pulled out a napkin, sliding it across the table. A spiral drawn in pen, not perfect, not clean, just like the one on Nokutulu's uniform. It whispered, "You're one of them." She shook her head. "No, I'm one of the ones who got out too late." Her voice was calm, but heavy, like it had carried this weight too long and the seams were finally giving. We didn't speak for a few minutes, just sat. My mouth tasted like metal. The lights above buzzed. The sound of clinking forks and chewing around us felt too loud, too fake. Then she leaned forward. "You were a recorder," she said. I blinked. "What?" "There were 2 kinds of girls," she said. "Performers and recorders. Performers were the ones they sent into the world. Smiling, polished, the face of success. You've seen them. They post about the school like it saved them." "Maybe it did. Maybe they don't remember the rest." "And the recorders?" I asked, my voice quieter than I meant. She looked down at her tea, then back up. "The recorders were chosen to remember. We were trained to observe, mimic, absorb. The stories, the pain, the process. They needed us to hold the memories. Because memory can't be erased, it can only be redirected." I felt sick. Why? Because memory is evidence, and evidence has to be kept somewhere. I pushed back from the booth a little. The air around me felt heavy. She continued. "They couldn't destroy all the proof, too risky, too many people involved. So they buried it in us. In our routines, in the way we smiled, in the phrases they made us say." I whispered the words without meaning to. "I was seen. Therefore, I am safe." She nodded. "That one's a lock. You say it enough times, your brain stops asking why." I stared at her for a long time. Her eyes were dark, unreadable. "Why do I still remember, then?" She tilted her head. "Because you were never fully erased?" I pulled out the VHS tape, set it on the table between us. Her hand didn't shake when she touched it. She turned it over slowly, reading the label. "Cycle 7, she muttered. "They were already experimenting by then. You must have been one of the later trials." And couldn't speak. She looked at me, really looked, then said something that made my spine go cold. "You still hear it, don't you? The humming?" I nodded slowly. She rolled up her sleeve, showed me a faded scar near her wrist. They started with patches, biofeedback devices, but it didn't hold. Then she leaned closer, pushed her hair back and turned her head. Behind her ear, just under the hairline, was a deeper scar, thin but surgical, like a clean slice that had long since healed. "They downloaded the rehearsal," she said. "Right here, directly into the memory center. Every phrase, every smile, every punishment, buried beneath layers of praise and performance." I stared at the mark, stomach twisting. Why show me this now? Because they're still looking for you, she said softly. You were supposed to stay. Recorders don't leave. That's the rule. You got out during a breach. I read the logs later, that night. They lost power for 17 seconds, long enough for you to slip through. I whispered, you read the logs. I worked the archive room before I ran. I saw everything. I leaned forward. Then tell me, who were they? Who ran it? She shook her head. It wasn't one person, not even her. She was the symbol, the face. But the machinery behind it, that ran deep. Sponsors, scientists, behavioral architects. Some thought it was a benevolent project. They were told it was performance enhancement for underprivileged youth. Others knew better. They called it compliant reflection. A generation trained not just to smile, but to forget on cue. I thought of all the girls I remembered, smiling, silent, gone. What happened to the others? I asked. She looked at me. Some are still inside, not physically, but mentally. Their lives look perfect, their words are beautiful, but they don't know what they lost. And the ones who remember, most don't last. It eats them from inside, a war between what they feel and what they were told to feel. I felt something sharp rise in my chest. Fear, grief, rage, maybe all of it. She placed a hand over mine. But you got out before the download finished. That's why your memories are jagged. Why the tape exists. You're a broken file. That makes you dangerous. I stared at her. So what do I do? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, find the others, the ones like us, before they disappear completely, before they forget who they were. I nodded slowly, and then she said one last thing. When they find you, and they will, you must never say it again. Say what? That phrase, that lock. Because if you do, the door closes for good. She slid from the booth, paid for her tea, and left before I could ask her name. But I didn't need to. She was one of the others. Like me. Chapter 5. Missing, but accounted for. I wasn't supposed to see any of it. My name's Arib, I'm an intern, not a journalist, not an investigator, not a whistleblower, just a student on a government placement, stuck in a dusty basement beneath a federal records building in Pretoria, logging documents that most people forgot existed. I wear a clearance badge that means nothing. I drink too much coffee. I pretend to care about digital preservation. That's it. But on a Thursday afternoon in late August, while sorting through a box labeled Public-Private Education Exchange Programs 200720115, I found something I can't explain. And now, I don't know what to do with it. The file had no title on the folder, just a label printed in bold. Cycle exits, do not audit. It was tucked between a stack of benign memos. Routine education grant reports, curriculum adjustments, handwritten thank you letters from South African students to American sponsors. I almost skipped it, but something about that phrase made me pause. Cycle exits. At first I thought it was about graduation or school transfers. The documents inside were thin, sparse, too sparse. Each form followed the same format. Name redacted. Student ID obscure. Date of removal, vague, only years, no months or days. Exit reason, always one of three things. Return to family custody. Transferred under spiritual scholarship. Reassigned to alternate learning environment. What struck me wasn't just the vagueness, it was the repetition. Dozens of forms, different redaction marks, different strokes of pen, but the same three phrases over and over. The language felt manufactured, practiced, like someone had built a script and pasted it onto lives. There were no corresponding travel records, no guardianship logs, no signed withdrawal forms, and for a federal agency, especially in a joint operation between the US and South Africa, That was a red flag. Every child moved between systems is tracked. Immigration forms, airfare records, notarized guardianship transfers. There has to be something. But here, nothing. Just blank spaces and buzzwords. One report, though, was different. It didn't follow the form. It was handwritten, and instead of an exit reason, it had a symbol. A spiral, drawn in blue pen, loose and shaking. There was no name, just the phrase. Refused compliance, cycle rejected. Taped to the corner of the page was a photo of a school uniform. Not worn, folded. The name tag had been scratched out with black ink. Underneath, someone had written in small, neat print, "Return for observation." I stared at it for a long time. Something about the handwriting unsettled me. It was too calm, like the person writing it didn't believe anything wrong had happened, like this was just policy. I searched for more files, ran the barcodes through the archive system. Most returned missing or access restricted, but one hit bounced back under an old cross-agency memo system, a file from 2011 labeled Oleg Partner Review. Behavioral Outcomes, Cycles 17. Inside there were 4 pages of typed text. Clean, formal, but between the lines it read like a confession written in the language of a report. It described 2-tier psychological conditioning structures and differentiated compliance roles. Terms like reflective conditioning, internal witnessing, and spiritual behavioral encoding kept coming up. But what chilled me most was this line. Recorder class students may experience partial memory retention if cycle extraction is incomplete. These instances must be addressed through controlled stimuli or reassignment. Under no condition should recorders be permitted public reintegration without verbal compliance markers in place. That was it. That was the sentence that made my throat tighten. Verbal compliance markers? I clicked the print button. I needed a hard copy, something I could hold, something real. The printer groaned, then it jammed. And of course it did. I opened the tray, expecting a crumpled sheet. But what came out wasn't what I sent. It was a photo, black and white, slightly grainy, but clear. A classroom. Mid-assembly. Rows of girls in identical uniforms, their backs straight, their hands folded on their laps, all smiling, every one of them. Perfect, wide smiles. Except one. She sat near the back. Her expression was blank. Not defiant, just present. Her eyes stared straight ahead, not at the teacher, not at the board, at the camera. There was no date, no note, no metadata. But at the bottom of the photo in the margin, someone had written one word. Recorder. Chapter 6. You can't fake a memory that lives in your bones. Some mornings I wake up and my arms are already in position, folded neatly across my lap, back straight, feet flat on the floor. It's like I never went to sleep. Like my body stayed behind, waiting, holding the posture. I don't remember choosing it. I just open my eyes and I'm sitting like that, staring at the wall like there's someone on the other side watching to see if I'll flinch. Other times it's the opposite. I'll be brushing my teeth or folding a blanket or just walking to the store and then I hear a word, not even spoken, sometimes just printed on a billboard or muttered by someone on the phone behind me in line, and my body reacts before my brain can catch up. Smile. Rehearse. Rotate. My hand clenches. My shoulder twitches. My breath goes short as if someone just pressed a button under my ribs. It's like the commands are still in me. Modest memories. As reflexes. They trained us well. We didn't know it at the time. How deep it went. How much was being written into us. We thought we were just practicing poise and performance. But it wasn't practice. It was programming. The kind that doesn't come with wires or screens. Just repetition. Just rituals. Just quiet drills until your muscles do it without being asked. The older girl, Maya, or whatever her real name is, was right. I think about her words every night now. They never wanted you to forget. They just wanted to choose how you remember. And that's the worst part, the remembering. Because it doesn't happen like a film reel or a diary. It happens in jolts, in sweat, in dreams that don't feel like dreams. I'll smell a certain soap, and suddenly I'm back in the hygiene check room, where we had to scrub behind our ears until the water ran clear. I'll hear the squeak of heels on tile, and I'm back in the corridor before room 9, knowing what's coming, but unable to turn around. I had a nightmare 2 nights ago. In it, I was on stage, but there were no lights, no audience, just endless darkness beyond the edge. I was wearing my old uniform, stiff and starched. A voice came from the ceiling, calm and gentle. Begin, but I didn't know what to do. No script, no instructions, just silence. So I started smiling. I smiled until my lips cracked. And somewhere in the dark, heels started clicking. Pulling closer. That sound click pause has followed me ever since the school. Even now, walking through motels or on sidewalks, I flinch at the rhythm of someone's shoes. It's a pattern I can't unhear. That night, I woke up drenched in sweat, sitting straight again, hands folded like I was waiting for someone to inspect me. They say trauma leaves impressions, but this isn't just an impression. This is something deeper, something carved in. You can't fake a memory that lives in your bones. You can silence it, bury it, mask it with a pretty smile and soft words, but you can't unmake it. It waits. It waits in your fingertips, in your lungs, in the way your spine curls at the word observe. I've started keeping a notebook, not to journal, just to track the triggers. Every time my body reacts, I write the word, the feeling, the shape it left behind. It's not to make sense of it. Nothing about this makes sense. It's just to prove to myself I'm still here, that I'm not just some broken file running its old script in the background. Last week, I found a photo slipped under my motel door. No note, just the photo. It was a hallway I recognized. East dormitory, 2nd floor, one of the last wings built before they closed the academy. The image was clean, too clean. No dust, no signs of decay, as if the building was still running. But it can't be. The place was shut down years ago. I turned the photo over, nothing written, no stamp, just a faint imprint barely visible unless you tilted it in the right light. Faded, a spiral, drawn by hand. That night, I didn't sleep. And then this morning, something happened I still don't understand. I was brushing my teeth in the motel bathroom, staring blankly into the mirror. I don't usually look too long. My own reflection has started to unsettle me. It's the smile. I don't remember choosing it, but sometimes it appears anyway. A wide, hollow grin, like my face is remembering something I haven't given it permission to. I leaned forward, just trying to clear my thoughts. My chest felt tight, like something was caught. I coughed hard, and something clinked into the sink. At first I thought it was a tooth. Panic shot through me. But when I looked closer, my blood ran cold. It was a shard of mirror, tiny, jagged, with a smear of blood from where it cut me on the way out. But the worst part? It a reflection, not of me. Not exactly. The girl in the shard was me, but younger. In uniform, smiling wide, eyes glazed. The exact smile they taught us. The one that wasn't really a smile at all. I dropped it, backed away, stared into the full mirror again. Now my own face was expressionless, just blank. And for the first time since I left the school, I whispered out loud, I don't think I ever really left. Chapter 7, Performance Never Ends. I wasn't supposed to hear it. I've been a court transcription technician for almost 6 years now. That means I listen to hours of legal recordings, statements, depositions, courtroom audio, then clean it up and feed it into the federal archive system. 90% of the job is monotony. People lie, people cry, people mumble into microphones they don't understand. You stop listening with your heart after the first month. You just listen for patterns, pacing. Inhale, pause, exhale, objection. All of it becomes noise. But this file wasn't noise. It was labeled wrong, came through a secure batch, flagged for the Central Holdings Archive, a private defamation suit between a closed trust and a media distributor. I wasn't even supposed to open it, just tag and forward. But the file name caught my eye. Record _7_compliance_final. Not a legal label, not part of any case code I recognized, and the timestamp was off, nearly a decade old. I opened it. The audio began with static, then a soft pop, and then her voice. Not her public voice, not the one we all grew up with, warm, booming, full of grace and pause. This voice was quieter, closer, measured in a way that didn't feel scripted. She spoke like someone narrating a test, like someone reading results aloud, not knowing who was listening. "You teach them to smile," she said, "and they'll believe they're safe. You record the smile and they'll believe it's real." There was no room tone, no background hum of courtroom air conditioners or paper shuffling, just her words floating in dead space. I sat frozen, one hand over the pause key, unsure if I'd been sent something I was never meant to hear. She continued, "It is easier to edit behavior than to erase pain, easier to broadcast beauty than to question the rehearsal, and they never question the rehearsal because we let them feel chosen." Silence followed. 7 seconds. Then a sharp click, a shift in the mic, like someone adjusting it by hand. Another voice entered, not Oprah this time. A girl, young, soft, breathy. She made us rehearse what hurt. And that was it. The audio cut. No formal end, just a blink into silence. I pulled off my headphones and stared at the waveform, hands shaking. I ran a check on the file's origin. It wasn't listed in the official court logs. No chain of custody, no deposition metadata, just a single file path. Redix storage, greater than cycle files, greater than cycle, audit _vote _refx greater than _7 _reply 2os _file underscores greater than _e replay. Cycle again with the cycles. I should have flagged it, should have sent a report, marked it corrupted, discarded it. But I did. I rewound the last few seconds instead. The girl's voice. She made us rehearse what hurt. Something about it scraped under my skin, like a splinter of sound. I played it again, slowed it down, removed the background fuzz. And then I heard it. The voice wasn't just familiar. It was mine. Not current, not in my adult register, but younger, softer. I know how insane that sounds. I've never been recorded saying those words. I didn't go to that school. I never stepped foot in South Africa. I grew up in Canada. My parents were accountants. My life was boring. Now I don't know. I've started to remember flashes, not full memories, impressions, heat on my back, a uniform that itched at the collar, a mirror I was told to smile into, a hallway without clocks, someone guiding my chin with 2 fingers and whispering, "You must be still to be seen." These weren't dreams. Dreams don't leave physical reactions. I woke up with my hands folded, with my lips aching like I'd been grinning in my sleep for hours. I don't know how that file got to me. I don't know why it was labeled the way it was. But I know what I heard. And if my voice is on that recording, then maybe performance doesn't end when the curtain falls. Maybe it starts again. Every time you forget. Every time you smile without knowing why. I kept the file. Not officially. I couldn't upload it, couldn't tag it. But I burned it to a disk. Labeled it the only way I could think to. Reflection copy cycle incomplete. I don't know if I was a performer or a recorder. I just know I heard myself remember something I've never said. And I'm afraid the rest of the script is still inside me. Waiting, Chapter 8. I was the evidence. I never thought I'd make it this far. Not without vanishing. Not without forgetting. But here I am. My last motel. My last night. And this time, I'm not hiding. I'm writing this because I want there to be a record. One they can't erase. One that doesn't sit on a shelf in a locked basement or inside a mislabeled tape or stitched behind a smile. I want someone somewhere to know that it wasn't just a school. It wasn't just a few bad people. It was a system, a machine, a stage. And I was part of the performance. But I was also the camera. I spent the last week uploading everything. Not to social media, not to anything public or flashy that would be too easy for them to wipe. I found smaller corners of the web, places that don't get scanned often. Private investigator forums, ex-student survivor boards. I used burner accounts, encrypted drives, rerouted IPs. Every upload was timed, slow, quiet. I started with the class rosters. You wouldn't notice at first. Just names, columns, years. But if you look closely, some of those girls disappear mid-year. No exit date, no transfer notes, just a name, then silence. One entry just reads, removed for cycle study. Another, no note at all, blank. Erased like she never existed. Then I posted the photos. Some were from inside the school, taken by students on old devices we weren't supposed to have. Others were screenshots from archived footage, recordings never meant to be seen again. I edited nothing, even when the image is blurred, even when the eyes of the girls didn't look quite human anymore. I posted the spiral, drawn on walls, stitched into cuffs, burned into wood. It wasn't decorative, it wasn't random, it was a marker, a key, a silent way of saying, this one remembers. I shared the tape last. Cycle 7, full compliance. They didn't watch it again. I couldn't. But I encoded it, watermarked it, mirrored the data, sent it through private proxies in 5 countries, made sure it was scattered, backed up, embedded in places that can't be scrubbed easily. Someone out there will find it, someone with a sharper eye, someone who knows what to do with it. Not that person. I'm just the record. I've always been the record. They never let me be a girl. Never let me be a student or a daughter or anything whole. I was the mirror they used to test the script, the one who watched, the one who kept the pieces. And now I think they're done with me. Because when I came back from posting the last file, just one last visit to a library terminal in a town I'd never been to before, my motel door was cracked open. Inside, no signs of struggle, no overturned furniture, no missing bags, just stillness. And on the bed, my old school uniform, fold perfectly, pressed like it hadn't aged a day. The name tag had been cut out. Above the bed was a mirror. I hadn't noticed it before. Someone had written across it in thick, clear letters. Reflection compliant, final performance complete. I stood there, staring at those words, and for a moment, I almost smiled. Because I understand now. I wasn't chosen to be saved. I was chosen to remember. And now that I've passed it on, now that someone else can see I'm not needed anymore, that doesn't scare me, because this wasn't escape. It was release. And if they come for me now, they won't be erasing anything. They'll just be closing a file. Because I didn't run away. I was let go because I remembered.